Curiosity has taught me something. The story we think we're about to hear is almost never the story that's waiting to be told. Today's conversation starts because I wanted to talk to the founder of this amazing nonprofit grocery store. But before long, it becomes a story about resilience, kindness, faith, and moments that can change the course of a life. Most of all, it's a reminder that when we transform our own struggles into service, hope has a way of multiplying. This is my conversation with Hieke Morton. Welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast, conversations shaped by curiosity, creativity, and connection. I'm your host, Shannon Miles Halliday, and this show is where we explore new possibilities and embrace the wild, beautiful, ever unfolding adventure of being human. Welcome, Hieke, to the podcast. I'm so glad you're with us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Shannon. I've been looking forward to this one.
So, for people who don't know you, if you would be able to introduce yourself, and please include the trained chef part, the pastry chef part, the high school home ec as teacher, as well as the founder of the Gathering Markit. All the things.
All the things. Wow, that's like my whole history. Um,
But
food,
it's so good.
food is the thread, is the theme, I would say, through my life. When I was in high school, food class was my favorite class. I wanted to be a chef already in high school. So as soon as I graduated, I did go to BCIT to get my Red Seal ticket. I worked at the fancy schmancy restaurant in Langley called the Old Country Inn. So that's where I did my apprenticeship program, became a Red Seal, and then also did my pastry training there. My life went on all kinds of journeys, including in that was I started my own catering company. And my very first job was actually for my own wedding. I was
Oh
still
my.
working at the Old Country and I catered my own wedding for 250 people, which was I would never do it again, but I figured by the end of that, if I could cater my own wedding, I could certainly cater someone else's wedding. And literally, a catering company grew out of that I had for many, many years. And as soon as I say the word had, as if I don't do it anymore, someone phones and says, "Hey, could you please?" And I end up doing something else, like my son's wedding for 300 people, or
Holy
I
smokes.
catering is one of those things, once you've done it, you're just always going to be doing it. And then I took a job as a foods teacher at a local high school here in Abbotsford. And I did that for 4 years. And it was actually when I applied for the job, I'm not a teacher by trade. I got the job because of my Red Seal ticket. And in my interview, they asked me what unique thing I was bringing to this job, this role. And I know nothing about teaching. But the first thing that jumped into my head was this dream that had been in my brain for so many years about some way of creating access to affordable food. So I said to them without thinking through, I wanted to purchase a glass door freezer. We wanted to call the program Access Foods, and I wanted to take all the food that my kids made in high school and sell it back to families at cost so everyone could access healthy food. That's what got me the job. Was
Wow.
that on the spot thing that I wanted to do with food. And that really just came from my own life of knowing how tough it could be to put food on the table for your kiddos. So that's kind of my career path. And 4 years ago, I opened the market, and that brings me here.
Wow. That's amazing. Isn't it neat how everything just lined up? And I wanted to add that Hieke grew up just down the street from me, and my mom was a health nurse. And so that meant that we didn't have a lot of treats in our house. So I was down at Hike's house definitely every Sunday, but many, many other days during the week, because on Sundays, they always had 5 different desserts. And during the week, they would always have a whole selection of delicious food and desserts. And I wasn't getting a lot of the desserts at home. So I was pretty excited to go down the street. So I know that I've eaten Hike's culinary delights for many, many years as a kid.
I remember going to your house and your mom would make chocolate chip cookies with carob chip before anyone knew what those were. They were not chocolate.
And they were not delicious, which,
Nope, they
you know,
were not.
now you understand why I was at your house.
Yeah, that's going back a ways.
It is, but it's a great childhood memory of mine going to your place, and when you had, Black Forest cakes, that was I mean, somebody probably called me. As soon as that thing was out of the oven and getting created, I was probably walking or running down the street.
That was at least once or twice a month on Sunday mornings. And then we also had a mocha apricot one. That was all the rage, probably on the other Saturday nights that my mom would make it. Yeah.
Oh, that yeah,
Like,
that's amazing. So you've come from a long line of delicious bakers, so I think it's in your blood for sure. And with the Gathering Markit, I've just been so inspired by this journey of yours to create this market. And if anyone is on LinkedIn and gets a chance to follow Hika's stories about the market, she shares a lot of great stories as well as a lot of words of wisdom. Now, so back to those early days. So you've started this program in foods and you're selling back the food to families at cost. Now, how did that actually work? How did you get the word out? Was it the kids' families from the high school or how did that start?
well, then I'm going to have to go back about 25 years, 28 years. When my kids were little, my ex-husband was unable to work due to a mental health challenge that lasted for many years. And we really struggled to put food on the table. And my kids went to a private school for many years. Someone else actually paid for them to go. So it may have looked like we had it all together and my kids are going to a private school, but we were we weren't making it. I can't even say we were barely making it. It wasn't working and we ended up losing our home and all kinds of stuff that goes along with that. But I remember meeting up with moms after school or picking up our kids or being on a field trip. And these moms would just be talking regular life stuff, how they were preparing for a trip or after they picked the kids up, they were running off to Costco. Most of the years of raising my kids through school, I just sat there with my mouth closed because I could not contribute to those conversations or I would be lying. That was not my world for so many years. So when I became a teacher, actually at the same school that my kids all went through,
Okay.
I knew there were other families that were feeling the way that I felt and the way that I experienced food insecurity. So when I took that job and I came out with this bold statement, I'm creating access with foods, that idea came out of nowhere. I presented it to my grade 12 class, the very first grade 12 class I have had. And I said to them, hey, this was my life story. I could not put food on the table. It was really tough. And I know what it's like for parents. And I said, I'm guessing some of you in this room, someone else is paying for you to be here in this private school and that your parents are struggling. And so I said, this is my dream, is to create a nonprofit grocery store. But in the meantime, I would like to take all the food that you guys are making. And there's a good reason behind that because you've got 6 little kitchens in a food classroom. Sometimes you're making full lasagnas, you're making full pies, whatever it is you're teaching the kids. And up until I came along, the way that it worked was kids would make the pie, they'd eat the whole pie between 4 kids. They'd make a lasagna, they'd eat the whole lasagna. And these are teenage kids, so it was very possible for them to devour an entire pie
Yeah.
or yeah. But the amount of food that we were going through and the amount of money that it cost to make something substantial was ridiculous. So I said to these kids, if we make items and we sell them at cost to parents, if your parents are struggling, let them know this is available. It allows us to make money to put back into our program so I can take you on really cool field trips, which we did some very cool field trips. It means I can buy really good ingredients. So you're not making lousy high school stuff. You're actually learning skills with really good ingredients. And the kids were so on board. And in fact, the very first day that I shared that and I shared my story, two boys stayed after school to come in and tell me that their moms could really use this right now. And that was just the two kids that were brave enough to say anything. And it
Wow.
just, all of that was born out of, I know what it's like. And my passion, my goal, my whole reason for doing what I'm doing is because there is an entire demographic of people that are unseen. These are people that I was raised, you don't accept a handout, right?
Right.
You pull yourself up for your bootstraps and you work hard and you make this
Yeah.
happen. You don't live above your means. Huh. Should be no
Yeah.
reason that you can't make this work. And
Right.
living under that pressure, not even from the outside, but from my own self. I beat myself up so bad, so many times over and over and over that should have been able to make this work.
The
And
woulda, shoulda, coulda, as my mom and grandma used to say.
yeah, and I couldn't. And I don't know if I've shared this with you, Shannon. Maybe I did once in an email, but huh, oh man, I was catering when I was raising my little ones, and we were still not making ends meet because I was the only one bringing in little bits of money. I had four kids, and I took a catering job that your grandma got for me for the Salvation Army Women's Group in Langley.
Oh,
And
wow.
I did that catering job. And afterwards, this lovely lady who was overseeing it, she paid me and then she slipped me $100 bill. And she said, I heard life is not so easy for you. And that same lady signed me up to receive Salvation Army hampers every single week
Oh, wow.
to be your grandma.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, my
Of course,
grandma
I've
would
known,
know a thing or three about food insecurity, right? She grew
right?
up, like, look at me. I didn't think this was going to be an emotional conversation. Where are my Kleenexes? I need to be wearing glasses.
Um,
Um,
but
yeah, my grandmother raised 5 her first 5 kids. Her first child was born when she was 14, and then her husband died in the war, and she had 5 kids, 4 boys and 1 girl, and my mom was 4. She was the youngest when her dad died, but she actually started smoking at a very young age because her brother said, "If you smoke, you won't be hungry." Not that I'm telling anyone to smoke for as a diet tactic, but yeah, so that's tough. So I suspect she would have seen you. My grandmother was very good at
mhm,
seeing what was actually going on behind the um, whatever was presented.
I love that because that is what I do is the seeing part.
Oh,
I knew there's no way that I was the only person to have experienced that or would ever experience that. And the lack of support for folks like me, I remember being so ticked off that we didn't qualify for welfare because we owned a house. I mean, you have to live
wow.
somewhere. We bought a house when we were very young. So because we owned a house, we had an asset. And they said, yeah, you don't qualify for any sort of assistance. And I basically said to the lady, take my house. I need to feed my kids. And she said, well, come back and see us when you can sell it or when you lose it. And my ex-husband at the time wouldn't sign the papers because he wasn't mentally okay and wasn't able to do that. And I couldn't sell it without his signature. And
Right.
that's the position we found ourselves in. Now, that's not something you share at school drop-offs.
No,
You don't
definitely.
share that with a lot of people. And I just wanted to feel normal. I just so desperately wanted to keep my head above water and give my kids a normal life. And it took everything in me to survive and just get through the day. We were literally living day by day. And by that, I mean whatever pop cans I could find to buy food for the next day was how we were living. Before I jumped on this call, I flipped through some of my old journals because I have a story in there about your mom.
Oh,
Uh,
no way.
I do, but as I was flipping through my journals, I was seeing the stories of how how tight things were and how desperate I was to try and make this happen and how few resources there were available for us. But the story about your mom was this would have been in the late fall. And I had written in my journal, I was probably bawling my eyes out. Once again, I was a journaler, so I wrote these stories often. And I was honestly praying that God would send me flowers, which seems ridiculous, but I needed something in my house. And in the summer, I could pick flowers on the side of the road, no problem. But by the time all of that was gone and there was nothing, there was no money for flowers, there was nothing beautiful or fresh. And I was
Right.
craving it desperately. So I literally prayed for flowers. And the next day, your mom was standing at my door and she said to me, "You know what? There is a storm coming this weekend. And I needed to cut down all of these dahlias or they're just going to be blown over and ruined anyways. 2 5-gallon buckets, Shan,
Oh my goodness.
of flowers. I I had more than I actually needed or wanted, but it was a reminder for me that I'm a person of faith. So I saw my whole life all of these answered prayers in very unique ways that God came through, and to bring me to where I am now, to have had all of those experiences and realize that was just a building, a putting together of who I have become, the role that I'm in now, the families that I get to interact with are because of the life that I had. And at the time, I did not love it. I did not
Right?
love the lessons. It was the hardest thing I ever did. But the beauty of journaling and recording your thoughts and your emotions and the things that happen to you, the everyday life stuff, you actually are able to look back and read your life as a book. And for me, I can see a purpose and a plan that's brought me here today. Which, had you told me this 25 years ago, I never, ever would have believed you. I just desperately wanted to feed my kids, period. And this has been such an incredible journey to get to this place where now I walk alongside moms and I get to give them hope and tell them this is not the end of your story. It's a chapter. It's a hard chapter. But just like your grandma saw me, I get to see these moms and I get to encourage them and walk alongside, and been doing this for just over 4 years. And I am now the recipient of the conversations and the phone calls and the emails that say, "Hey, I've come out the other side. And you're right. I am okay." Um, I don't even know how I got all there, Shan, but
Oh,
uh,
what a beautiful story, and just so neat, right? Like, just to see how lives weave in and out, and the experiences weave in and out. And I think I moved out of home probably like 95 officially. I mean, I'd gone off to university, but I officially didn't come back for the summer of 95. And after that, our lives were quite different. And but then we'd see each other once in a while. And I know my parents really rediscovered their faith in our teenage years. They needed a bit of extra support. And so I think that's when they joined the Salvation Army Church. And then my grandma went with them, and they were very active in that church for a long time. And I'd moved overseas. And, at that stage, I was pretty oblivious to things happening in Langley. I would go home and be so lucky to get spoiled on my parents' farm, and we called it Rancho Relaxo. And I think that we often just don't see what's actually going on, right? And that's another reason why I wanted to bring your story onto the podcast, is to help more people see these people who look like they've got all their stuff together. You don't really know. Nobody knows what's going on under the surface. And I think, because you always looked so good. You're always your hair always looked good. You always just looked great. That it would be and you had these 4 beautiful children, and from the outside looking in, I think it was so easy to miss and so easy because you've got that, not you, but people have that ability to present what they want the world to see, not necessarily what's going on, that it's hard for people to realize what's going on under the surface. Um, and wow, isn't that just so beautiful how that really tough time led you to be able to say to those other moms and people that you've worked with that come to the market that you understand because you really do.
Yeah. And
And
Right. I think for most people in the situation they find themselves in, it's the I understand. It's a chapter. I didn't stay in that position. It's trying to light a fire to fan the flames that life can change, and it won't happen all at one time. But
yeah,
you can develop, you can grow. Your kids are going to grow up. They're not going to be little and dependent on you forever. So what steps can you take now to be in a position that when your life does change, you're emotionally ready for it, you're physically ready for it, you're intellectually ready for those changes. And that is a piece of this job that I absolutely love that I get to do. So I should probably tell you what I actually do. Hey,
that sounds great. Please tell me
okay.
what you actually do.
What I actually do. So when I was teaching at the local high school, I want to say it was my third year teaching, and it was COVID. And I was teaching, amongst other classes, I was also teaching grade 8 boys how to cook online. Talk about poke your eyes out with a fork moment. Oh,
Oh my goodness.
one bit to be tied. And I was trying to teach from home. It was just, it was awful. And my husband was coming home. I was now remarried. And my husband was coming home, and I was just blowing off steam every day on how ridiculous this is to try and teach boys how to cook online. And he said to me, "Why don't you just take one step towards this dream of opening a nonprofit grocery store?" And I would push back for the first bit with, "I don't even know where to start." He's like, "Well, you have time, so figure out where to start." So I did. I literally started just Googling how to start a nonprofit, to start a nonprofit grocery store. Step one, register the name. And as I was doing these one step, literally one step a day, finding these checklists online, I remember things popping up saying this particular uh, submission or whatever it was that I was asking the government to give me permission to do can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. I'm like, oh, well, good thing I'm starting early. But sometimes I would get a coffee, come back, ding, process approved, name secured. It happened so incredibly fast that from January 2021 to the end of summer of January 20, so within 6 to 9 months, I was ready to open a store.
Wow.
Uh, I had a location secured that fell through. So in the late summer, early fall, I actually partnered with the Salvation Army Church that I'm in now. I met with them, told them my idea of creating this nonprofit grocery store. I told them I needed a classroom to do the little market in, and I needed a industrially approved kitchen. They had both. Classrooms right across the hall from the kitchen, and it was amazing. We're ready to open in November of 2021 from when I first started typing in how to open a nonprofit grocery store. And the floods hit here in Abbotsford.
Oh, right. Oh my goodness.
So this entire place was shut down because the residents beside it had some flooding, and that just everything was on hold. And I tell you, I was come hell or literally high water. I was going to open in 2021. So for one day in December of 2021, I did open my doors, but we officially opened January 2022. And it is so funny to look back now and realize how little, how little I knew. how little of a plan I had in place for food to be coming in. I don't know what I thought I was doing. But January 2022, I went to my grade 12 class and I said, "Hey guys, I have just opened a nonprofit market. I thought I was going to do it off the side of my desk, but I needed some volunteers." So, my grade 12 class, full of young, eager students, I food safe certified them all, brought them
Wow.
to the market, and they were the first kit builders. They built my meal kits and my baking kits for me, and they were excited to be part of the process as well. In fact, one of the gals, Maddie, who was my first student then, she volunteers with me now. She volunteers during the week to run the till. She's come back after 4 years to help me out. But anyways, I opened this nonprofit grocery store with the idea of specializing in meal kits. That's why we're called the Markit. So I
Okay.
specialize I started with meal kits and baking kits. So a meal kit is like a Hello Fresh or a chef's prep. I
Yeah.
think Hello is the name for it. So we put together everything to create a meal for a family of four, and we only charge $5. So it's a three-step: grab the ingredients. The dry bag has got, or the brown bag has all of your dry ingredients in it, measured out. Your spices, your rice, your pasta, your potatoes. Then step two is to head over to the step two fridge, add the coordinating fresh ingredients, fully bagged and packaged for you. You do have to peel it and chop it and all of that. And then beside that is step three, which is the freezer full of meat. So you again will grab the coordinating frozen meat, or maybe it's veggie burgers, whatever it is, to finish off your entire kit. And that will serve a family of four for $5. The idea was, there's no way I was the only stressed out parent that couldn't make ends meet, that couldn't think of dinner night after
Yeah.
night after night. Well, every parent
Right.
does. Does you that if you're struggling, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I launched with. And then baking kits. I wanted to bake with my kids, but $20 for a bag of flour was just out of the question half the time. So we put together baking kits the exact same way. Everything is measured out in little step one, two, and three. We include everything: the margarine, the egg, if there's milk, whether it's frozen blueberries or frozen bananas or frozen apples, whatever the recipe needs. And those are $2. Always
Oh,
$2
amazing.
to bake with your kids. So that's what we started with. I did not do a focus group. I did not take a poll and do a survey. I just figured, as a mom, I know what I could have used. And we built it on that. And I had to quit my job teaching by June. I
Wow.
then went from 0 to 100 in 6 months. At first, I didn't know how we were going to get the word out. Yet that was not a problem
Okay.
at all. As soon as families hear that there is another alternative to a handout, they were lining up to sign up. So we started signing up families very, very quickly. And we are now 4 years in. We have between 120 to 150 families at one time. Um, we now make breakfast kits, lunch kits, baking kits, meal kits, smoothie kits, veggie kits. You name the food kit, we put those together. Nothing in our store is over $5, which means for the first time a parent can walk into a shop and afford literally everything on the shelf. And right now we're sitting at about $35, $36 is the average spend per family. And that's enough for an entire week's worth of groceries. So my goal always was to reach the people that were like me. And that means people who did not want to use a handout, but could not afford a retail grocery store. But also someone who had some oomph, who had some determination, where life was going to get better if they just had a hand for a while. I knew that I was never going to be the kind of person laying on my couch, eating bonbons and playing video games. That's not who I am. That's not what I wanted. So we partner, we try to weed out people who don't fit that very well, and those who just have a little bit of oomph and want a better life and are willing to do the work. And we since we've opened, we have sold well over 18,000 just meal kits,
Holy
which
smokes.
right? Which is almost it's something like 78,000 individual homemade meals. To me,
Amazing.
that proves people aren't looking for a handout. They just need a little bit of a hand to make life doable. And the beauty with, at least what I think, the beauty of this whole concept of the hand up, not a handout, is you have some skin in the game. If you're willing to do a little bit of the work and you're able to make that, you have a little win every single day. I don't know about you, but as a parent, even as a spouse, whatever it is, you put a quality meal on the table, you're proud of yourself.
Yeah.
You heat up a can of soup, meh. But
Yeah.
if you can brag, put coconut curry and basmati rice on the table for dinner tonight, that's a
Yeah.
little win. And
Yeah.
and what I believe in is we compound one little win after another. You're now not buying Oreo cookies. You've learned how to make your own and your kids help you. You've taught your kids a skill. You've learned a skill and you're not eating garbage. That changes things. That's another win. And I'm a firm believer, every little step that we take in life that is positive actually does compound. Whether it's your attitude, whether it's how you pick up and clean your house, right? Like it's one little thing upon one little thing upon one little thing. And because I believe in that, I've actually structured the program here to be a 3-stage program. So the first year, so it's over 3 years. The first year that someone is referred to us is you just shop. You just try and keep your head above water. You're just trying to catch your breath. Anyone for whom life has been an absolute gong show for a period of time needs some room to breathe.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about dinner, anything takes the pressure off. And you can actually, for the first time for some of these mamas, is actually breathe stress free. Because you're only spending $35 a week on groceries, any extra money can go into savings, can pay for a car repair, can be a down payment for your bigger apartment that you can't afford because you need a half a month's rent, right?
Yeah.
So the first year is just get your head above water. Year 2, we ask for a little bit of skin in the game. So you're paying a membership fee. It's only $50 for a year. But at the start of a new year, it's our customers saying, yeah, I'm ready to put the work in now. I have saved up some money. If someone isn't capable of doing that step, they're no longer a fit. And that's fine. So then they fall off. But if they're able to take the next step, by about 2 years in, as a person in our program, it does require some resilience because you have to keep coming back to the same small store because you're saving so much money. Instead of
Right.
just running
Right.
to save on and spending 20 times the amount, there it actually, you have to put a bit of effort into that. Now, by year 3, after you've been shopping with us and in the program, I'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the program, but by year 3, we actually include a financial wellness course.
Wow.
We want people up and on their feet and out the door. I don't want to be part of keeping someone stuck. I want to be part of that launch in their life. So we are just launching that program. And it has been, the framework has been built, but we've actually asked a few of our moms to be part of the shaping and tweaking the final steps of that program so that we have their insight on, yes, the wording is good. It doesn't offend me.
Right.
When we first started this, um, I was so sensitive about someone talking about financial wellness because my soapbox has been, when there's not enough, there's not enough. Don't tell me to stop going to Starbucks because I ain't going to Starbucks.
Right. Right.
Else, there is no way to say to someone who is struggling and you see them, you think spending money foolishly on one thing. I would say 99% of the time, that is that one thing that's keeping them alive.
Right.
We cannot look at someone's life and say, you shouldn't have that one vice, whatever it happens to be, because that is the one thing that's getting them through. I remember one of the moms I met, and this is going back a lot of years. We were both going through a rough time. And actually, it was someone from our church that said, we'll go through your finances with you and help you get things in order, right? It's a little bit empowering. And they flagged that she was spending $20 on this particular lipstick, which seemed absolutely outrageous, right? So it was something they flagged and they said, seems a bit ridiculous. And she burst into tears and she said, as a single mom living in a crappy basement suite, I have nothing. And that one tube of lipstick is what makes me be able to go out the door to my job every single day. And I have tried to bring that way of thinking into everything that we do here. Is that financial wellness course is not about pointing out where you need to smarten up and save money. It's an empowerment piece. And there is something so empowering about being able to see a little bit of savings grow on the side. Our goal with this financial wellness course is that if a mom has gone through this entire program and managed to save for $500 for an emergency fund, we have donors that will match that so that you leave here with an extra cushion, the know-how, and just the emotional support. I would say that's huge. I didn't have anyone in my family that really understood where I was at and how hard I was fighting to stay afloat. And a part of that was either they were too emotionally upset when I would share how hard life was. So I started to just keep it inside because I remember saying, you can't cry about my life more than I'm crying about it. Like, don't make me now feel guilty that you're crying about how hard my life is. And then other family members, because their life situation was nowhere near mine, they had no clue what I was going through. And
Right.
really, this financial wellness course is a lot of it is saying, put it on paper, own it. And there's a reason you're struggling because the numbers don't work. And that is okay. There is actually something empowering about seeing it on paper and having someone else say to you, holy cow, how are you still here? This doesn't work. How are you doing this? And it's just flipping the script on how we look at the struggles that people have. And, you know, Maya Angelou, the hardest story is that untold story of hardships. And as parents who are struggling to feed your kids, that is the touchiest point because you want to be known as a parent who's taking good care of their children. Everything in you wants you to do that. And if you're showing me that I can't and that I'm not, nothing is more devastating. So for
Right.
someone to flip the script and say, you, my friend, are doing an unbelievable job with the small amount of resources you have. I am floored. I am inspired by you. That has to happen for these mamas to be able to get out of this place because they will have that inner voice that already beats them up every single day. You're not doing it. Where is your RSP contributions for this year? We already feel like we are failing on every single front. And for me, the last piece was exactly that, was being able to start an RSP and put $400 in that baby. It's like, are you kidding me? I feel like I'm actually a member of society now. It was a combination of that, being able to buy my first jug of Tide laundry soap. I don't know why. I felt like I made it when I could buy the Tide, and I made it when I could buy chicken breast with no bone and no skin on. It's just these little wins. And it is so much more about just getting your finances ordered. It's getting the person in order. It's being seen. Your
Yeah.
grandma seeing me, Shan. I can't even put into words how life-changing that was for me. Um, I could never have gone to my own church and asked for help because people didn't see me that way, and I didn't even
Right.
know
Right.
where to share that. But
Right.
someone from the outside seeing it, bringing it to me in a way that was discreet enough that no one in my world had to know, um, made a world of difference. Now, I also have a soapbox about that because getting food hampers, 30 years ago are not the same as they are today. But I remember receiving them, and it was less about what was inside and it was more about someone saw me and they were helping me. But the food that was inside those food hampers was awful. This was the back of people's covers, right? It was the Jello that expired 18 years ago, and it was some random cans, and I didn't know what to do with those food items. I really didn't. But looking back, that was the catalyst for putting together meal kits and making it simple. And I actually source the very best food that I can here in Abbotsford. We have partnerships with incredible high-end food producers and farmers and grocery stores here in Abbotsford. So I get to offer families the highest quality of food.
And so that's amazing, and because you've been in the food business your entire life, you
Yeah.
know what is good quality food, and so and you're still calling it the Gathering Markit, right? The Gathering
We're called
Markit?
Gathering Markit. Yeah.
And so you're based in Abbotsford, and do you serve just Abbotsford, or are there people from the neighboring areas that can come? And for anyone who's not, living in the Lower Mainland here, just outside of Vancouver, Abbotsford is about an hour and a bit outside of Vancouver, and it's a lot of farmland, but a lot of people have moved into we call it the Valley.
Yeah. We only serve families in Abbotsford. It allows me that when I go to our community to ask for support, that support stays in our community. And our
Right.
idea is that we are strengthening the foundation of families within our own community. So yeah, we're for Abbotsford only.
And so then, like, getting your first suppliers and things, when you were just starting out and you didn't have an idea of you were winging it, right? You were taking that action and seeing what would happen. Who were your first suppliers that you would talk to, and how did those first conversations go?
So I had volunteered at an organization in Vancouver called Quest Food Exchange. I volunteered there for about 5 years because they are a nonprofit grocery store out Vancouver way. And it was the first one I'd ever heard of. And so I loved the concept of what they were doing. It just still felt very, and this is going back a number of years, but it still felt very kind of less than. It wasn't a beautiful environment. It was very warehousey and not great. But they were going to grocery stores. They were asking for the late dated or the produce, the dry goods that were maybe close to date, and they were receiving those items and selling them back to families very cheaply. So I knew that that was a potential. So I went to a couple grocery stores and just started that way. But I very quickly learned there's two organizations that have inserted themselves as third parties. So what used to be a possibility of just knocking on grocery stores, large chains, and receiving their excess food, and that was built on a relationship with a store manager and myself, was no longer a thing. There were
Wow.
third parties, Second Harvest, and Food Mesh that actually now you have to go through to qualify to get access to this food. We didn't qualify because we sell the food.
Right.
So it meant me knocking on doors of just independents here in town. And then I also started to tap into restaurants. I come from that industry, so I know what sort of food is left over. So one of our very first great guys to come on board was Nico, who owns Greek Islands here, a Greek restaurant in Abbotsford.
I've been
And
to that restaurant.
it's so great. Nico and his brother each have one, Yanni and Nico. So they will take their extra meat, whatever it is, and they'll make me a meat sauce that I can serve as a Greek Islands meal. So we add the pasta, we portion it out, we vacuum seal it. Farm Market, we were able to approach them, show them what we do. We get incredible lettuce that they grow on their own farm. We get sausages that they make in-house for us on Monday mornings.
Oh, amazing.
Just started to snowball because we recognized people actually want to help their own communities. And people liked, especially business people, liked the concept of this was not a handout. There was some skin in the game. We have a very tight vetting system. A handout is usually a little bit more of a free for all. We're open to everybody, and everyone gets 24 heads of lettuce or whatever these random items are. Ours is very, very curated. It means that we can make our food go very, very far because we're not just handing someone, 20 pounds of potatoes. We're turning that into 5 full dinners for 5 full families. And that resonated with our food producers, with restaurants, and our local shops here. So that's where it started.
Well, and I bet those families, when they get a little bit more money, remember those restaurants that
Oh, 100%. And the grocery stores. Yeah.
and the grocery stores. And then when they're able,
Yeah.
that's who they're going to want to go to. And there's a path for them to get there.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, that's exciting to watch. The desire to give back when you've been helped is huge. So we just give them opportunities to do that and to thank their community for supporting them just with a hand up during a tough time. The difference with a hand up and a hand out is you're not going back in shame saying you did all this for me, you gave me all this, but coming out of guilt.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
You were there for me. So I want to give back any way that I can as well. I am, yeah, it is also my soapbox to talk about the difference between a handout and a hand up and the importance of just a hand up across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandmother and Maya Angelou, I was looking this quote up of Maya Angelou's, and it was, when she knew better, she did better. And that particular quote became quite known in the 90s. I can't remember when Maya Angelou was born, but I'm thinking maybe my grandmother was a bit older than her, but around the same. But certainly those similar types of women with that deep, deep wisdom who'd seen some stuff.
Yeah. And they did it without the handout.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
they learned better. They set the bar higher. They were a part of their own healing journeys. And I think we take that away from people when we do a handout. You're
Yeah.
not learning when I know better, I do better,
Yeah.
because there's an entitlement that sets in when someone is giving you something and you don't have to um to put any work or effort into it, right? We devalue it. Whereas I would say women like your grandmother, that entire generation and all the generations before then would never have accepted that someone was going to put food on the table for them.
Yeah.
And that is what built those strong women of resilience. Your grandmother raising 5 children on her own at
Yeah.
a time where it was very, very tough to do so. But I bet you didn't hear her complaining as you grew up. You would have heard
Oh,
her
no.
reflecting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when she got older, and she would she didn't have much money when she got older, but she would treat herself to trips to Reno, and she would make these dolls. You probably remember these dolls, out of nylons, and she would make Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus figures out of these nylons. It felt like I saw a lot more of those, but she was very crafty, and so she would sell all these crafts, just to probably people at church and stuff, and then she would finance her trips to Reno. So I think probably in her mid-70s, she started loving to gamble, and she was like, "This is," like you were saying, "this is my one thing that I love to do for me, and I've spent so much of my life not being able to do the one thing for me because 'cause I'm always helping everybody else." And, so it was, yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, love that.
She
Love
was,
that.
she was going to enjoy her 70s, and this was the way she was doing it.
Yeah, which is great. That's
Right? Right?
great. I think that's part of the journey that I find with the families that we walk alongside is being able to encourage them in in their journey to look for those little things and to celebrate those wins, to celebrate the joys, to find the good stuff, and not to lose sight of that because it's either going to make you bitter or better, right? So, having someone remind you of the good things as you're walking a tough road is incredibly important. And for me, that's actually the gathering piece of the gathering market. So, we do events to draw the families in. It's not weekly, every other week for sure, to
Oh,
that
amazing.
remind them that life has moments of joy. Celebrate them and take them and spend time with your family. We always provide a brunch, and then in partnership with our two churches, they do something called Messy Church or Just Show Up or a play cafe, a way to celebrate families, take the pressure off because you don't have to feed the kids before you show up. We'll have a free brunch just to interact and have fun. Bring out the fun bouncy castle, do a car
Right.
wash. It's the reminder to celebrate the little wins, because I honestly think that if you don't, you will become bitter and
Right.
bitter. You're able to
Right.
see the good things. You're just, and again, it's just building. It's one more thing. But a lot of people, those building blocks are all the negative, lousy things that have happened in life, and they collect them like they're starting a collection.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. It's
start
a
to
badge.
go,
And you wear it
yeah,
like a badge, and then it gets in the
yeah,
way. And you
100%.
yeah, and those victim stories are so hard to let go of
Yeah,
because it's part of what defines us often is these victim stories.
what,
And and it is amazing when you shift that perspective and you're able to, not all the time, but you're able to operate without the story. You sure notice it in people who front load their victim stories. And just
what,
just this week, we were camping, and this one woman, she was hitchhike camping with there was four of them, and they were on an island, and they'd gone camping, which was amazing. And but she couldn't drive, and so she had a whole story about why she couldn't drive when we just rolled down the window to ask if they needed some help. Well, she front loaded her victim story, which was very noticeable. She was doing something so amazing, taking these kids camping, and it was a safe spot, I feel, to be hitchhiking, and there's four of them. And it was interesting. They were looking for a ride to the ferry terminal. So we waited at the where they were, and my husband drove the 15 minutes to take them to the ferry terminal. So he's like, "Where are they gonna get a ride?" So he took them, which was
what,
nice. And at the same time, you see so many of the positive aspects that were there in her story, and she wasn't able to access them. And if she had been able to, imagine how much more she would have been able to see of the great things that were there.
yeah. Sometimes it takes time. Well, I think always it takes time. But I also think it takes someone around you, a community to show you, to model it. I don't believe you get through the tough stuff of life on your own. I don't. I think you need a community. You need people reminding you, supporting you when you have those pity party to help you keep into a moment, not
Yeah.
make it become a lifestyle. And then I think I can actually say that we are strengthening the foundation of our community. If I was only giving access to affordable food, I don't know, that falls flat. It has to be
Right.
more than that. There's a lot of people that are handing out food. Food in itself doesn't change you.
Right.
It's
Right.
changing your perspective on what you do with it, how you receive it, how you give back. All of those are pieces. The food piece is for me is just the vehicle to access the people in that place. And I don't ever want to keep them stuck there, which means I have to help them set a bar that they want to achieve for their life, and then get them remove the barriers so that they have the easiest path
Do
to
you
achieve things that they want to achieve.
do you have any stories that really stand out to you of people that you've helped through the market?
Yes.
What are some of your favorites?
One of my absolute favorites is a mom who came to us when I first opened the doors. She was actually working at our local food bank. And she came to me and said, I don't want my peers to know I actually need access to the food that I'm handing out. And so she signed up to shop with us and had two young girls that came with her. And back then, I was always working on Saturdays. I worked in the till, I worked in the kitchen, and they came every single Saturday to visit with me. They spent the entire time we were open helping me vacuuming or tidying
Oh,
up, just being around me in the space we visited. They became my friends. And I want to say 6 months or so, 6 to 9 months, something little was happening in their life. There was a little promotion. Mom got a different job. Mom now works for the university. Mom is now working for the government in a government job. And I remember one of the big jobs where it became a government job. And she walked in wearing a really nice coat. So I said that. I said, "Oh, I love your coat." And then her daughter said, "You know why she got it? Because she got a promotion that I pushed her to get." And the girls were playing this role of pushing mom. She, at the same time, was expecting greatness from her girls. The fact that they didn't have any extra money didn't stop her from pushing her girls to join every science fair. You try out for everything. And her daughter last year graduated from high school. She had also been through cadets. That girl was the top cadet in Canada. She graduated with
wow.
unbelievable, the honors that she graduated with top student. Um, and then she was also offered from 4 universities a full ride scholarship. She had her choice of university. So she chose UBC, so she would be fairly close to mom. That kid wants to be a doctor.
Oh,
And
amazing.
I just went to see them a couple weeks ago because mom has now moved into a bigger apartment that has 2 bedrooms. She was raising those girls in one bedroom and mom slept on the couch and girls shared a bedroom. Now the girls each have their own bedroom. Mom still sleeps on the couch, but this constant striving to take the steps to get out of where she's at. And that woman is my hero and absolute inspiration who also pushed her girls to do better. Exactly that. I know better, I do better.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I am so thrilled at the idea that this young woman is going to be a doctor. She's going to be something. She is an incredible young lady because she had an incredible mom. And that's what keeps me going are those stories. Um, the world gives up on people that financially seem to have less.
Yeah, yeah.
The opposite should be true, is if anyone is still surviving and they're living on less, there's some grit and some resilience there we should tap into. And again, all we're doing is fanning the flames of what's already there. But if you do that for the right person, that is wind under those wings and off they go. And what an absolute joy to walk alongside people like that.
Right? Oh, that's an amazing story, as is your story and the whole story of the market. And I hope that you've got a TED Talk coming, Hieke, because this is it's
Same.
such a beautiful story to share and really one of these stories that gives people hope, but also gives people an idea of how they can help. So so for people that are listening that want to be able to help in their communities, or even if they're in Abbotsford, I don't think you need to be in Abbotsford to help out the Gathering Markit if you wanted to. How would you suggest are the best ways for people to get involved or to help out?
Couple things. Honestly, coming to the market and seeing the market, actually seeing what we do and wrapping your head around it. It is so hard for me to fully describe it without you seeing it in action and seeing the beauty of the space and how we've designed it. So just book a tour. Come take an hour and let me show you what it is we do and just be encouraged by it and inspired by it. And go onto the website, lots of information how if you do want to support our work financially, you can do that. Um, or if you want to have a conversation with me about starting your own market, your own nonprofit grocery store in your own community, we do have a model that is very unique. And I look forward to sharing it with more communities. My goal, honestly, is to go across Canada and to share the market model. I'm writing a book right now.
I
Um,
love it. I love
as I
it.
started to put together the model to share with others, I realized it's not manuals, it's not SOPs. The market is a story. So I'm writing the story to go along with, I can put together everything you need to open a nonprofit grocery store. I put together a market to give to you, but it's a story behind it that if it resonates and you see value for it in your community, then you too can open a nonprofit grocery store and just change the way we're addressing food insecurity, because that problem's getting bigger, not better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what a lovely story and just what incredible work you're doing in the world and all the people that are helping, all the people that are donating their time, their products, their love and support and to those who helped you along the way, including my grandma, and I'm so
Right?
glad my mom delivered those flowers when you needed them.
Mhm.
I'm sure she got the message.
Right?
And before we sign off, um, I always like to ask my guests to leave us with some words of wisdom. And also, is there anything that you wanted to cover that we haven't talked about?
Hmm. Words of wisdom. I think it's just my soapbox that we are entering into a period of time where the handout isn't going to work much longer. The resources are running out, and we have to be equipped to manage the need in a sustainable way. I often liken what we do to a parent raising a child. You don't just give them everything all of the time as they get older and older. You have expectations for some skin in the game of doing some chores or acting responsible. And we really have to start doing that with the way that we handle our resources, because we won't have food to give out for a whole lot longer. So that is something that I would say everyone should be concerned about. And if anything we haven't covered, goodness, I don't know. I think we covered everything. Probably a little bit more than that.
Well,
What
I
about
think we definitely covered some good stuff, and I absolutely want to book a tour and come check out
you?
the market. I would love to see
Excellent.
where you're working your magic. And Hieke, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today. I'm so grateful we've had this conversation, and I'm so lucky that I know you and get to be able to share this story.
Oh, thanks for having me, Shannon. It was great.
Thank you so much for joining us today. As I reflect on this conversation with Hieke, there's a few thoughts that really stuck with me. We never really know what someone else is going through. Dignity can be one of the greatest gifts we offer another person. And perhaps most importantly, as Hieke so beautifully reminded us, what you're going through is only one chapter of your life. It's not the whole book. It's not the whole story. If you'd like to learn more about Hieke or support her work and connect with the Gathering Markit, um, you'll find all of her details and links in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this conversation, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe, share this episode with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a review. It really does help more people discover these stories, and these stories have the power to make a difference. This podcast was created and produced by Shannon Miles Halliday, with original music by Anna Vovsignac. Thank you for joining me on the Miles to Zen podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, follow, share, or leave a comment so we can keep growing this community together. This podcast was created and produced by Shannon Miles Halliday, with original music by Anna Vovsignac.